we're good with that. And I will share my screen as well. And by all means, please feel free to keep this very informal. This is just like a little bit of a walkthrough, casual conversation, if you will. So if you want me to go back or double down on any, concepts that I'm covering or any tips that I'm giving, please feel free to interject and remind me or ask all the questions you may need. So here's CodeCombat. This is our coding platform that we have in languages Python, JavaScript, and then we actually have a couple of modules that cover C++ as well. So just to kick things off and how this would be, when you go to the home page here, the login page is going to be up here. This is how you're going to integrate your sign-ins. So if you wanted to actually do Google sign-in or Google Classroom, this is the button that you're going to need to check. So it's relatively straightforward, but this is going to be the main button for you. I'm actually going to log into the demo account because that has a little bit more data to show you. So this is what you would see. So the teacher account is absolutely free. This gives you the back end to everything that you need to cover. So there's a student-facing element to where basically the licenses unlock to go beyond the free portion that we have. This is the teacher integration that lets you keep track of everything and set up the classes and assign all the content here. So this, for me, it goes automatically to student licenses. So this is where you guys are going to actually find everything. So just an FYI for you, Teresa, we can actually have a follow-up or we can just kind of do this now. But what you would do, because I distributed the licenses to your account. So you actually have all of them. So what you would do is just enter everyone's email here. And then it'll be like the pool and everyone can kind of just grab the licenses as they choose.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so guys, what I'll do, because I'm working from home today, tomorrow when I get in the office, I'll add all of you in there. So if you haven't already created your CodeCombat teacher account last week, go ahead and do that at some point today. And then tomorrow morning when I get in there, I'll add you in there so you can pull the licenses you need.
Yes, definitely step one. In order to actually get all this teacher account and sharing the licenses, you do need that account.
But they can continue on, like in terms of like the other abilities of the teacher that they have in the teacher dashboard. They can still do that without the license, right? It's just they don't have a license to sign.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, all right, just checking.
Okay, so I'm going to start, actually, no, I'll start over here with the classes since we already did a little bit of that coverage. So what you're going to do is hit create a class. Once you get the licenses, once you get your teacher account, this is probably if we're going to go in order here, this will probably be the next step for you to do so. So again, it's pretty straightforward. I would break it up into your sections that we can just keep it up. You can always archive this later because hopefully you guys are going to be using this again next school year. So you can archive this, move on with it. And then just select the language, a little bit of more information for your reference, and then that's all you need.
And by the way, guys, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to
Please do.
Step on you there. So because you all are using this as an after school class, you would really only have a single class, I'm assuming, as everybody goes through everything. Or let me ask you, Rob, if they are going to compete in teams or individually, should they be set up like that?
And you guys remind me how you're going to compete again, because I know we spoke about a little bit of just like the certifications and all that. Or how would you compete?
Right. So if they are if they're going to learn all of the curriculum together as a class, as a group, but then they're going to compete either independently as a single student or maybe as several students together in a group, is it okay to have them all in one class, or do we have to separate them out initially as if they were in different classes?
So the thing about that is that I don't know how you would do that through multiple accounts. I'd have to double check for that, because theoretically you could. I just don't know if we're going to be doing it through one shared account. That's an easy yes. But if everyone's going to have their own individual account, their own class, and then maybe have the kids enter that class multiple times over, I don't know if that's going to be feasible. So I know individually you could always maybe track and share. So for example, if there's classes here, I just select this one up top. You can always export the progress, and this will just download into like an Excel file to where you can track everything too. That might be a way, or if you wanted to just go off.
Question.
Yes.
It sounds like, well, Teresa, please correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like for the competition, it's almost like we would have as many classes as we would have students participating. I think that's what she means, Rob, that we would, like if I have 8 students, unless we're all going to use, we agree we're going to use Python or JavaScript, and I may have a couple working together, would we then have 8 different classes, one for each student? Is that what you mean, Teresa?
It is, and I wasn't sure if I
Okay.
was getting ahead of myself, but I was thinking about the, you know how they have those competitions with the arenas, Rob, at the end of the thing. If they're signed up as separate classes, would it be easier for them to compete in the arena?
Okay, now we're on the same page. So I would recommend still creating the classes just by the teacher, the way you guys are broken up naturally. You don't have to do 1 student per class. That would be definitely too much. And then in regards to the arena, I believe the max is only 4 students. So you're going to be better off if you wanted to compete, maybe doing more of the esports, do that to showcase a ladder. That's going to give you an actual leaderboard. Or I think Teresa, we spoke briefly about this last week, but this is what I meant by the certificate. So this is ARIA. So this is student A on your end, and they're going at a rapid pace, and they have the certificate available. One scenario, perhaps, if you wanted to just in the vein of competition, to print this and maybe write a timestamp note as well as to when they're completing, let them know that, to ping you and let them know they're completed. Maybe print out this certificate, and then, you know, Monday at 2:30, something to that effect. This could be a great way to showcase things as well as just for them to keep track of what they're doing. This certificate is going to be available upon completion of each module. So after the introductory course entirety, after computer science 2, it's an entirety, not like level 1 or level 2 like that. It's after the whole module has been completed.
Okay, so for simplicity's sake, guys, let's just say you will create a single class for your club, and all of your students will go in that one class, and we'll sort the rest out later.
But then they all have to use one language, right?
Right, and the idea would be that our middle school students would be working in Python.
Okay.
So the additional like JavaScript or C++ would only be an option for the high school, and that was really to, if we had students who were already real familiar, excuse me, with Python, and I don't even think I've got any ATC students participating this year, so it may be a moot point. But yeah, I figured we would stick for the elementary and the middle, that we would stick with the Python overall, might be more consistent.
So for just to make it clear, to go back to just the classroom setup, I'll go back here. So my class is the tab. We're going to create the class, and then you just save it. And then this will be appearing on your tab. And then in order to actually add the students, what you're going to do is either do the Google sign in, or you can just share this class code or the URL. Once you do that and the students are prompted on their end when they're signing in, it will automatically loop them into your classroom. So rather than just doing any one-on-one or individual adding on your end, the easiest way, aside from Google, would be the class code or the URL. And this will be a unique URL to each of your individual class. So that would be the first step. And then let me go back to the other class because that one has a little bit more students. Okay. And then what we're going to be looking at here is you're going to assign the content. So what we can do, you definitely can skip over game development and web development. What you're going to do once you have all the students is just select all, and then you're going to be selecting the courses. Now, what I would recommend though is maybe keeping a close monitor on what you're doing, because you can assign all of the computer science units all at once. However, there is no lock feature. So it's going to have a little bit of the trust factor on the other side from the student side, because if they do want to get ahead, especially if there's competition involved, that might have them maybe giving them more of an influence to log in at home or overnight or on the weekends. So in order to keep this as level playing field as possible, I would recommend maybe doing one unit at a time. So once they complete computer science 1, and that's all they have access to, they're essentially stuck. So you guys can maybe talk about the pacing and that, how you're going to do that. Or, you know, maybe it's just like a every other day thing to where you let them go. I'm not really sure, but unfortunately we don't have that lock feature available in CodeCombat aside from just pacing out the modules individually.
And guys, as Rob and I were talking about this prior to the meeting, we were really trying to come up with what would be the best curriculum to cover in a really limited amount of time. So I know that you only have about 10 weeks to cover everything. Our challenge is going to take place the week of June 7th through the 11th. It will be asynchronous, so and it will be not something that we do all together in a single day. So this really is something you'll be able to do the competitions and so on during your typical club meeting time, or you can do it over a couple of days, and we'll talk more about that later. But the idea with this curriculum, assigning the curriculum to the students, was really trying to determine what you all could cover during your meetings and what the students could really synthesize in a 10-week period, which is why we're skipping over some of those things. So the computer science 1 and 2, I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at the more detailed sheet that I sent out to you. Rob sent it to me, and it kind of had a better breakdown of the standards that were covered. Yeah, and so if you look at the introduction to computer science and kind of the topics that are covered there, and then as you scroll down and you look at the computer science 2, you'll notice it very much follows the coding concepts that we typically covered in past years. So that was really kind of what I wanted to stick with. There are options in there to do some of the game design and the web design, which looked really awesome. But I felt like for brevity's sake, we probably were going to stick with those computer science courses.
So I will go back and actually show you a little bit more of the course guide. So we'll come back to this in a second, but the scope and sequence document is going to be the clearest outline of what the levels and modules actually cover and how they pertain to CSA standards. So this is going to probably be the easiest way to just do it at a glimpse. However, if you wanted to just take it a step further and scroll on your own end, the concepts are laid out here, and this is in the course guide tab. And then you have access to play the game yourself. So you would it defaults to Python, so you should be all set there. You would have to manually select the level here, but if you just go to play level, you can just go here and then you'll be seeing the game. And this is what the student facing element of it is. And while I'm here, just gonna highlight a couple of things of how this works. Each level has a specific mission that they have to accomplish. In order to get from point A to point B, they're gonna have to be learning how to code and doing so. So it's a self-paced, self-engaged, intuitive model, if you will. It does get gradually more difficult as you progress through the game, but there's a lot of tips and tricks. And at the very early stages, this is gonna be the easiest. This is probably gonna be the quickest. So that's why the kids might theoretically be done in an hour, depending on the actual sit-down time and login time. Usually on average, about 1 to 2 hours for this first course. And then beyond that, since it's way more longer, the average time just varies so much. But the word bank is going to be here. They're going to be learning how to code. I'll just do this really quickly. I'll also show you.
And Rob, when you say an hour to 2 hours for the first course, is that across the board, every level from elementary through high school, or is it longer for the elementary students? I know that it is built for elementary level even to understand the Python, which is that was one of the draws. So I wasn't sure if there was a difference.
I would probably say it might go down for the older kids. So Python is going to be the easier between Python and JavaScript. And this intro course, again, I don't want to stress it too much because it's not that easy. But as you can see, this one is only 4 lines of coding and I'm already done. So there's 19 levels and I completed that really quickly. Now, that's going to take students different amounts of time here. But if you go down, there's 19 levels with the arena level at the very end. So the kids who have a coding element or maybe stronger computer literacy, it might go down to like 45 minutes or so. It just depends on how they actually engage with this, depending on maybe their background of what other game-based platforms that you're using. But it is going to be pretty easy.
And the levels are like the lessons, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So within all of these levels, we're covering syntax, arguments, strings, loops, variables, and algorithms. That's what's going to be covered in here. And that's also laid out within the scope and sequence of how that applies. So then if we go back to Computer Science 2, we're introducing a couple of more things. And then this module has 46 levels. And again, within these increments, we're continuing to scaffold and introduce a lot more. So it's going to take them that much more longer. So I would say between now and the end of the semester, depending on the class function, login time, you potentially could get up to Computer Science 3, maybe even 4 for the really, really rock stars. But as you can see, this one has 63 levels. And at this point, we're well underway into the weed of things. Computer Science 4, 5, and 6, particularly under JavaScript, are going to be the hardest that we have to offer all across the board. And those are way more advanced. So you can see how the pacing is going because it is a competition. So if you get far, that's a great sign.
Okay. So can you kind of walk us through what, I know you showed us how we would assign this to students. What can the mentors do to prepare ahead of time? I mean, aside from doing the lesson themselves, is there something that they can look at that will give them some background to each of the levels?
Sure. So first and foremost, this is going to be your best friend. So these are the overviews and solutions, i.e. the answer sheet. So if you're in a bind or if you just want to prepare, and if my internet complies, you can see all of the answers that are necessary. So the actual screen grab of what is essential, and then the lines of coding. So if you wanted to double check, this is probably going to be the easiest, most efficient way to prepare in advance. The other alternative too is going back to my classes. I'm going to go back to here, and then you can essentially just track the progress. So if you hover over this, green means completed, yellow means in progress, gray means assigned but not yet started. So you can see at just a high level, we're almost there. We're just at a fraction of what's going on. So you can dig into Alan here, and then you can verify and check the engagement of what's going on. So the last time that they played, and then the amount of time that's being spent. You can notice any trends. Now, the good thing to note too, if you dig into all of the students' profiles, that we have practice levels built within the game. This goes back into the whole intuitive thing that I mentioned earlier. So essentially it's a internal algorithm on our end as to the usage time and the errors being made. So if the students are flying by and everything is kind of making sense, there's no need to maybe like put them to the side, if you will, and introduce these other practice levels. However, if the students are struggling, before we continue to introduce other concepts and get more challenging, there's practice levels built in all across the board, especially in this introductory level, because that's going to be the foundation for the rest of the game. So all in all, I say that to say that you might have this grayed out, you might have this green. That doesn't mean anything other than the goal is that we want them to complete the level.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any questions with this? Okay.
And just to clarify, the mentors could assign some of these things to their students outside of class. As long as they have an internet connection, they don't need any special download on their Chromebook in order to complete these, right?
That is correct. All web-based. So as long as they have access, that's all they need.
Okay.
And then one other thing to add to your question, too, is that we have a ton of great resources here. This getting started guide is basically going to be like the how-to, the biggest FAQ. So if you forget, aside from watching this file, you can skim through all of this, and this is going to show how to actually sign up, how to create those classes, basically all of the questions that you might have. This is a great reference tool here.
And that's all in that resource hub, right?
And that is the getting started guide here.
Yeah. Guys, that resource hub, I would absolutely encourage you to take a peek in there. That's where I found a lot of the information before I even reached out to contact CodeCombat and see if it was something that would be viable for us. There was just such great content that was just in the resource hub that I could access for free that I thought would be really beneficial for us. You will notice that the pacing guides are typically outlined for a full year's worth, which would be ideal for us in any other year. So you can kind of see what their ideal pacing would look like and what we're trying to do in terms of shortening some of those things up. So that might be helpful for you as you're planning the next 10 weeks with your students and trying to figure out, you know, what you can do together, what concepts you want to introduce together, and maybe what you want to assign for those asynchronous days or independent work at home.
And this is just going to be a generic blueprint. And again, it varies on if your class meets for like block periods or if they meet every day for 40 to 50 minutes. This could obviously be extended or shortened, but this is assuming that you meet 2 or 3 times a week over the course of the semester of the school year. And this is just what we would recommend because the game development, web development is a great way to apply the learnings, but that's probably not the goal of what the usage is for this case. So I get it, but I'll just actually show because I have those laid out. But in this is certificate. With this pacing guide, you'll be done in a couple of days. This is going to take about a week as well. So if you were to actually go through that blueprint, sorry, wrong tab, you would have created a game like this. So this is a game that's created out of Game Development 1. This is a unique URL that can be shared with friends and family, kept forever. But this is a cool way for the kids who are new to coding to actually say that they completed the first level within 2-3 weeks. They created their own game already. So that's what the whole concept of that is, just to reinforce that engagement and drive that home.
So how are you all feeling right now? If you, Rob, do they have access to the chat?
Yeah, they should. I don't have any
guys,
that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, can you put a number in the chat for me? 10 being like you can do this with your eyes closed in your sleep, and 1 being you're going to key my car the next time you see me. Where are you at with this?
I love that. I might have to steal that, but hopefully don't key my car.
I just want to get an idea of where we're at, and
Well, you guys are doing that. I'm going to introduce a couple more things here in the resource hub. Definitely spend some time. I'm going to reinforce that and double and triple down on this as well. Aside from the getting started guide, there's a lot of good curriculum guides, the syntax guide. This is going to be a little bit more of the resources and the how-tos, if you will. So for everyone that's a visual learner, myself included, this is going to just be a little bit way of a teaching point. Maybe before you introduce the module, you can just give them a little bit of what to expect, to give them a reason as to why the brackets and why the parentheses are needed here. This is going to outline a little bit more, and this is available in Python and JavaScript. I know we're talking about Python, but just like as a FYI. And then another thing that's available too is the curriculum guide. So the curriculum guide is, I essentially always use this if you're noticing any trends when you're monitoring the classes. So aside from just like the practice levels, this is a good way for you to be a little bit more hands-on if you're noticing any like difficulties and trends. If you're noting that they're whizzing by the first 4 levels, but maybe level 10 comes into play and there's a little bit more of a lag. Well, you know that loops are involved. So you can have a little bit of a breakout session almost, if you will, and introduce a little bit more as to what loops are, what it means. There's a little bit of just like an offline activity. I don't know if that's going to fall in line with the way you guys want to work. So maybe this is something to introduce before. That way you can let the kids go at it. But these are just some of the tools that are available for you.
And that's, where can they find that again?
That is back in the resource hub, our best friend. Bear with the slow internet here. And I went to the Introduction to Computer Science Curriculum Guide.
There you go. So that might be the way that you're, kind of like when you plan your class, that might be the way that you plan your meetings with your students. By the way, it looks like I had just about everybody respond. I don't think I saw anybody under a 6, so that's good. It sounds like at a minimum you have some passing familiarity or comfort level with this. And what I need from you, you guys have been so gracious with me. So as we're moving through this today with Rob, if you have questions that you think of while we're doing the recording, please ask them, and that way we can get those answers and it'll be a part of the recording that we have. If you think about it later, you can let me know and I can email Rob, or if Rob's comfortable with me sharing his email, then I can pass that along to you, and we can get some of those answered as well, because I'm sure as you begin to implement some of these things and get your kids in there, you're probably going to have some additional questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely share my contact information. I'm happy to be a resource for you. For our friends that have a 6, is there any way something I can do to move that up a little bit? Maybe even we can just do a quick walkthrough all over from scratch. Is that going to help just to get like the flow of the cycle, or was it a specific point of emphasis that you had, some questions about, or, we can always do that individually if you want to be a little shy.
And I'll tell you right now, guys, the goal for us this week is to get you registered as a teacher, to get your student licenses and get your students in there and begin working through that introduction to computer science. That's our goal. Our goal for next week would be to see where we're at with the introduction to computer science, how your students are doing, how it's going with you. Are we running into any technology issues? Are we running into content issues? And how are we going to move the pacing forward from there? And I think that'll probably give us a better picture. Also, if we find that maybe we need to regroup with Rob, he might be willing to meet up with us again if we're really nice, and help us out with some of that if we need it.
I'm actually just going to go back. Thanks for getting back to me. So let's see. I'm going to actually just go back to classes, and we're going to assume that you created the class. Aside from actually logging in and getting to this point, this is going to be the other point of emphasis, because you will have to assign that content. So let's assume this is like 8, 10, 12 students here. You're going to select all, and then I'll just actually do this. You're going to go down individually to the computer science 1, and then you're going to go to, where is it here? Computer science 2, and then we're going to assign the course. So you're going to have these little bubbles just appear as it did. And that's going to be important, because that means that you're actually providing the content. If you don't do any of this, they're only going to have access to this first level, which again isn't the worst thing at a time, because if you assign everything all at once, maybe it is a competition, so maybe that is the best way, and maybe just take out some of the legwork on your end, because if they're going, at a warp speed, that's great, and that just means that they're going to finish at the top. So in this scenario for your usage case, maybe it is a good thing. So you would just, again, select all, and then we would add computer science 3, and then the little bubble modules are going to start appearing. So aside from everything, the account, setting up the class, and then assigning the specific content are going to be the 3 main components. Any of the other things, we can help figure out collectively. I can, go through this again, but at the least to set up your kids, those are going to be the important takeaways from this session.
There is one thing that I did want to make sure we included, and I don't know if there's a way for us to see it with what you have, and that was the arena that's at the end of the computer science. Is there a way to look at that and kind of give an idea of how students might compete against each other inside their class?
Sure. Let's go to course guide tab. And we're gonna just go here. So I don't know if you saw that pop up, but I'll just go back in and out. But this is gonna be the last level of the whole module. So this is level 19, and we're hitting play level. And you have to actually beat this level first. So that way you can complete it on your end. That way you can get the certificate created. And then afterwards is when you get to that. So pressure on me to make this happen because we need to do this. So it's time to demonstrate your skills. I think I actually might have this somewhere else.
And while he's doing that, guys, just to kind of give you an idea, I have not yet formulated the full challenge for us. It's been very much a build the plane as you fly it year. Part of what CodeCombat has, though, is this arena that where the students can compete against one another in the computer science courses at the very end. And while only 4 people could compete against one another at once within your own class, there's still, I think for us might be an opportunity to do something with that to help get us to a final first, second, and third place at elementary, middle, and high school. So we would still end up with 9 people, one at each level, placing first, second, and third. I just haven't worked out all the kinks yet.
So this is going to be a little bit of the idea of what's going to be going on. And then I'm actually going to go here to do this. If you want, actually, I can maybe spend some time in the esports because it's actually going to be a lot of the similarities as to what it looks like.
Okay.
So the esports is created through the world of CodeCombat. I think this could be like a good way to end, or I think you guys have summer plans to actually do this. I don't know, maybe Teresa, I'll follow you before I jump the gun on this, but it's going to be a lot of one and the same.
Okay.
Okay.
And it could be that the arenas become our practice rounds that we usually, with our cyber, we usually have practice rounds that take place face to face, and it's a whole day event. And then we have our final round a few months later. So it could be that the arenas end up kind of taking the place of our practice round, and they're just done independently. And then maybe this would be something that runs the week of the competition.
So this is going to be just the video. This is going to be a how-to. We can just talk over this because this is going to be a little bit of, you can get the idea of there's going to be several people actually going through everything. And the idea with this is that you're essentially coding at a rapid race, and we're tracking everything on the back end, and that's how the leaderboard is going to be compiled. So this is a good way just to apply and maybe get that competition, apply those learnings, if you will. This is a lot about what it's going to look like. This is essentially what the arena level looks like too, on a smaller scale with just 4 people. And then we basically just expanded that world to build our esports platform up right now.
And they could use on the esports platform, they could use what they learned in just the computer science classes.
Correct.
Courses?
Yeah. They should be all set, going through the first module alone. So if they get to 2 or 3, that's basically just going to build up their skills. So they should even be able to go up at a quicker pace too. So this could be a good way to reward them afterwards. And I know that we're coming up to the last couple of minutes here. So any other questions? Anything else that I can go back to? Let me check the chat again. No,
I have a
Mrs.
question for you.
Yes.
Just because I already created my account and I did create it with the sign in with Google. So
Okay.
once Teresa sends those codes for us, I just assume it's under like my account where we can actually activate the activation code so that it's now a paid account. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. That's probably the simplest way. So
Okay.
I won't correct you too much, but what you could do is she'll have to enter in, and Teresa, you and I can have a follow-up conversation tomorrow morning just so you kick things off the right way, but you will be having to enter everyone's email here. And then that will just be compiled there, and then that's going to give them the ability to comply or to grab those licenses. So you should be able to see, go to your student's license tab afterwards sometime tomorrow when she sends out a confirmation email on your end, and you should see that there's licenses available here. Once those licenses are available, then you can basically go back into the class, apply all the content, do everything that you needed. So that's a great question.
And Mia, I don't know if you're, I know that I purchased Kia licenses for my teachers for business. And actually we do it for some other CTE teachers as well. And it kind of runs in a similar way. Sometimes they already have created and paid for their own accounts in previous years, and we just kind of adopt them. And I take whatever email they've used to create their account, and I just tie it to the account that we've purchased, so then they have access to anything that's paid.
Okay, and I think anytime you do it, you know, the sign in with Google, it's just your short email address. It's not the long one with the dot in the middle. Yeah, yeah, so that always does make a difference though, that's for sure.
Yes, it does. You're
Mhm.
right.
Yes. So maybe if you guys want to be proactive and send her an email, because if she does enter, I don't know if you guys have multiple, or even sometimes it might default to your personal by accident. That will even add some more of the delay in assigning the licenses. So whatever it is, whatever process you guys want to do on your end, but maybe just confirm that it's the right email, or everyone just try to use, I guess, the generic school email that you have.
Yeah, if you are using the short email, just let me know, because otherwise what I'm going to be adding in there will be your long email.
Please don't. Please don't, Teresa. Please don't. Yeah, we need the 20 short
one.
one.
Later,
I'll show me type. Yeah, that's the sign in with Google. So I'll email you that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And that was an absolute great question.
Pop up, so I wouldn't know what your short version is. It's always just a little bit different for each person. I mean, I know what it's supposed to be, but it doesn't always pop up that way. So yeah, if you want me to use your short one, let me know.
Okay.
And just shoot me an email with that, and I'll make sure I plug that in instead for you. I'm happy to do that.
And my apologies for glancing that over, because that is a little bit of a key component. So if you guys have more questions, maybe perhaps I skipped some steps. Hopefully I didn't, but anything else lingering on your side there that is, not connecting, please ask away in the last couple minutes.
They're all exhausted.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat.
I know. I just want to get in there and play with it. I feel like I might have questions once we get started, but
Yeah,
for now, you did a great demo. So
okay.
Yeah, Rob, thank you so much for
yes, thank you
for doing this, and kind of for answering all of my million questions, because I know I've called you dozens of times asking things. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for faithfully coming along this journey with me. I'm so excited that we finally have a platform. Hurrah, hurrah, as of 11:26 this morning, by the way. So it has taken a whole village to get us here. So really excited about that. Definitely go in and take a peek at some of these things. I'll make sure tomorrow morning when I get those emails and make sure you have access to licenses, I'll send out Rob's contact information at the same time. And definitely, if you find that you've got questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to let me know. That's what I'm here for. And it's, you know, once I know something, you'll know something for sure. I would say though, just keep June 7th through the 11th in your date book, and just know that everything is going to be asynchronous. So what will probably end up happening is the competition will open up that week, and then you and your students will have the, you know, time during the week to do the competition. And especially if we use the eSport where the leaderboard is there, we'll have those first, second, and third places for each elementary, middle, and high school. And the plan for us on TCE's end is we're probably going to have to record it, but we want to have an awards ceremony that the kids can watch with their parents and with their family on Friday. So we may have to like pre-record it and then just launch it on Friday. We were trying to find a way to do that live, but we kept bumping up against SOLs and some other issues. So we may end up just recording that and just making it available Friday. But I'll let you know once we have more information about all of that. So.
And I have two quick things before we part. Specs and software. We are not iPad friendly, if anything, just because of the lack of keyboard. So the functionality is not going to be great. So Chromebooks, laptops, desktops are going to be the best software to use us. And then, you know, just good internet beyond that. For any like glitchy, you know, knock on wood, but it does happen from time to time. If your kids are seeing like something that looks a little funky, that probably means that there's a bug. So it's just support at CodeCombat is going to be the best way, because I won't personally, I'm not that smart or have the engineering background to fix that problem. So any like technical issues, support at CodeCombat. Anything like resource related, any like how-tos or just FAQs, I'm definitely going to be the right person. But for any like technical glitches, hiccups, support at CodeCombat is the best way to move things forward. And we should get a ticket turnaround in 24 hours, if not less.
Awesome. Rob, thank you so much for your time and for the information and for recording all of this. That's great. Once I have that recording, guys, I will put it up in our Schoology group for the Cyber Challenge. That way it can be accessed anytime you need it.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Pleasure speaking with everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.